The Fages expedition of 1772 is an important chapter in the exploration and settlement of Alta California. The community of Bay Point on Suisun Bay marked the easternmost camp of the exploration of 1772. It was there that Don Pedro Fages and Father Crespi proved the existence of a great inner estuary, San Pablo Bay, and the river of San Francisco, now known as the Sacramento River. The Fages-Crespi discoveries of 1772 led the Spanish king to secure the northern limits of the Spanish Empire in California against fur-hungry Russians and British explorers. This first exploration by Europeans of what is today Contra Costa County was led by Pedro Fages, a Spanish soldier who had earlier led the 1770 expedition that explored the Santa Clara Valley. With Don Fages was Father Juan Crespi, who kept one of the official 2 records of the expedition. Father Crespi belonged to the Franciscan order and was a student of Junipero Serra in Mallorca before being sent to Baja California in 1767. The rest of the exploring party consisted of 14 leather jacket soldiers, a muleteer, and a Christian Indian servant. They traveled up the eastern Santa Clara Valley along the shore of the East Bay and continued past San Pablo Bay, down Carquinez Strait to Suisun Bay. Along the way, they encountered many native villages, some of which they described in their diaries. This exploration went so far as modern Bay Point before turning back. As Professor Alan Brown wrote, "For the natives of the land, this contact was an immeasurably strange experience. For the Spanish, it was a story that had familiar elements, well-established protocols such as bestowing beads and trading foodstuffs." Professor Brown translated a detailed description of the natives on both sides of Carquinez Strait, near Crockett. Quote, "A great many smokes are to be seen on both sides of the inlet. The heathens told us by signs that those were villages." Father Crespi wrote of these Indians in an extremely favorable manner, comparing them to those seen in Santa Barbara, who were the most attractive and appealing natives they encountered in California. The next day, their journey from the vicinity of Crockett likely headed inland, rather than along the bluffs of the strait. Their exact route is not known, but they probably entered Diablo Valley somewhere near Highway 4. Quoting again from Father Crespi's journal, "We set out from the camp at about 6:30 and took up an northeasterly course through the midst of some very grassy hills. On going a league, we came out to a plain where we encountered, at a league's distance from us, in the midst of a plain, we saw their village, which was very large and extremely well peopled with heathens. When the group arrived in Diablo Valley, they stopped, and Father Crespi wrote in his journal, quote, "On coming into the valley here, we changed course to due northeastward and had the heathens who had been shouting to us a little more than a musket shot distant. They had driven a bow into the ground with arrows and an animal skin with featherwork, and were signing to us to go and take it, being unwilling to approach us themselves. Our captain went ahead with one soldier to take what they had set out for us, and the heathens drew back away. And our captain, in the same spot, drove in a pole with beads for them and signed to them to come and take it. After this meeting, we proceeded on northeastward across the valley to go up through a gap in the range. As soon as we had proceeded some way, the heathen went to get what we had left for them, and then, as we saw, they went running off to one of the 2 smokes that we had been viewing off in the distance on 2 sides of the flat. As we were just about to leave the valley, we once again heard shouting and noticed a few heathen coming, laden and calling to us, who were from the village that we had just come from. We stopped for a while, and some 14 heathens arrived, some among them laden with small onions they call amoles, barbecued, which they cast upon the ground while some of our men took whatever share they wanted." Captain Fages also kept a journal where he describes their travel through Diablo Valley. Quote, "At a league's distance from ourselves, in the middle of a level, we saw their village, a very large one, exceedingly populous with heathens. Close to the gap, 4 more heathens came to meet us, doing the same as what the previous ones had done, but we succeeded in getting one of them to take glass beads, and this was the cause that on going a short way further we were met and greeted by about 50 heathens with gestures of great happiness and pleasure, but still a bit flustered. Certainly they were all very tall, healthy heathens. We continued on our route, and on going a short way commenced climbing a high gap from which we could make out the course of the waters over a great distance. On coming down from this gap, we hit upon a large plain, seeing upon it a great many antelope, deer, geese, cranes, and no few tracks of the buffalo or mule deer, and another trace like a mule's. The soil appeared good and rather grassy, but scarce in wood. Jose Maria Soberanes was a soldier who accompanied Fages and Crespi. He also acted as guide to the Font de Anza exploration, leading them to camps used previously. This map, drawn by Font, shows the turnaround camp just as they came out of the pass. This aerial photo, made in 1939, shows the first creeks east of the pass where water was available for the travelers. That location was eventually settled in 1850-51 by Oliver Olmsted and is now on Camino Andreas near Willow Pass Road and Port Chicago Highway in Bay Point. We stopped in a cove made by some middling hills at which there was a small stream of not very good water. The exploring party set up a camp near the creek. 6 men were sent out to explore. 3 went east and north toward the delta. New research published in 2011 describes the journey of these 3 scouts eastward to a large Indian village between Pittsburgh and Antioch. 3 scouts were sent from the camp in a south-southwesterly direction to find a more direct route for their return trip to Monterey. The 3 soldiers came back the same night and said it had seemed to them that there was a way through to the southwest of us, and if desired, we could well return that way. The new translation of a diary from the 1776 De Anza expedition refers regularly to Crespi's diary of 1772 and adds comments. In that later diary, Font and the group went up through the Willow Pass, which he mentioned was precisely the route that Crespi took 4 years earlier. They stood at the top of a hill on the eastern side of the pass, just as Crespi had, and described what they saw. After coming down out of the pass, they stopped at a creek, probably the same one that Crespi camped at, and saw a huge herd of elk. Some of the soldiers wanted to hunt them, and they chased them all the way back to Diablo Valley. After resting from their hunt, they continued on to Pittsburgh, Antioch, where they encountered the large village of Julpkins, another Bay Miwok tribe. It was located about 10 miles east of Crespi's Bay Point turnaround camp. This was the same Indian village that Fages scouts had discovered 4 years earlier. What did the 1772 Crespi-Fages journey to Contra Costa mean to the Spanish Empire? Crespi provided his field diary to Father Serra, who added his own commentary in a report that he sent to the Spanish Viceroy in Mexico City. It was eventually forwarded to King Carlos III of Spain. As Alan K. Brown wrote several years ago, Serra's report of a great river named San Francisco was the lever which moved that empire at its top. Knowledge of the full extent of the San Francisco Bay Area moved the king to authorize an immediate settlement of San Francisco, which was undertaken in 1776 when the famous De Anza expedition created the first settlement in San Francisco. Eventually, we all came here.